Okay, once you have your cover motor off and you've removed all the old O-rings and seals, you're ready to put the new ones in. Be sure to use the tube of silicone that comes with your seal kit. First thing to install is the seal O-ring. You'll notice it has an odd shape. That's to prevent you from putting it in the wrong way. This beveled edge is going to go down, fits nicely in the slots. Put a little bit of silicone on your finger and spread it across on the top, and then take your wear plate, which has a beveled edge and a flat edge. You want the flat edge up, and just position it right on top. Silicone will help keep it in place. The figure 8 O-ring is next. Now I want to point out here that your old one is going to look smaller than the new one. That's normal. This has shrunk up. So get rid of that old one. Make sure you put the big new one in. It has a beveled edge. That's going to go down. So you want the smooth side up. It's going to seem too big to fit in there, but I trust you it does. Just jam it in there with your fingers. Silicone's going to make it a little slippery. Get it in there. Maybe put a little dab of silicone on the top. Yeah, stay in place. The other O-rings go on to the rotor disc, whether you're using your old one or a new one. I like to put the wave washer back on. You don't want to forget that. The larger O-ring will just slide down till it stops. The small one slides partially down till it stops. Oh yes, and don't forget the small drain O-ring. This is your little drain in here. It's got a cute little spring there. It just sits in that hole, and you can actually take it out. A little silicone on your O-ring. Put the O-ring in place. Carefully lower that back into position. Make sure, okay, got that seal disc or wear plate in the right place, and then just carefully put this down. Don't worry about the orientation at this point. And then the cover is going to go on. Your drain port always points over to your inlet side at an angle, and you'll notice your 5 screws will line up. Same would apply to the larger 8 screw system. Okay. Oh, and don't forget to put the new O-ring around your valve cover with a little bit of silicone on it before you place it back onto the valve. Okay, cover in place, O-rings all installed. Just drop them 5 screws in there. You may want to carefully turn them backwards just a hair to feel them find the notch. You don't want to create new threads. You want to find the threads that are already there. And what I like to do, and what I'm recommending here, is you just get them started. You can hear it pop in when it hits the right thread. There we go. Alright, now take your cam gear, as it's called, and you'll notice that it's notched. That's so you can only install it on the rotor disc the right way. Yeah, will not go on that way. Definitely only goes on this way. And before you get this tightened down is the time when you can slowly clockwise position the cam gear. There's a little pointer or indicator here right in the middle of the screw that goes to the drain. This is your indicator position, and there's an S right after the biggest gap on the gear. There's a small S, so just line that up as best you can. The S is the service, F is the fill, over here is the brine rinse, and there's the backwash, and then there's a rapid rinse over here. But the normal position would be in service. Now if you don't get this lined up right, the first time you go to start it, you might get an error code, or it might spin all the way around till it gets there. Not a big deal, but the proper way to do it is to get that position there when you're reassembling it. The S next to this little indicator or pointer right in the center by the drain. One more note on tightening: use a crisscross pattern. It says 30-40 inch torque. Basically, really snug, hand tight with a screwdriver works good. If you're using a ratchet, you might want to be a little bit more careful. Basically, a Phillips screwdriver, each one tightened down about as far as you can by hand, is going to be right where you want to be at. If you've got some grease, you can put that on the gears, or I usually put a little bit of the silicone. It's not a big deal. The trickiest part of reassembly is when you put the switch back on, make sure you've got this pin on your cover. If you replace the cover, you want to exchange this pin from it. Otherwise your old cover is going to stay there. Now there's a long screw for the motor, and there's a little spacer. So what I do is I've got my motor plate in my hand, and let's see, okay, it's going to go on like that. So this screw up here is going to be for my switch. So I put the screw in, slide the spacer on, and I get my switch, and one hole is for the pin. Whoop, upside down, didn't work. Okay, the pin. The other hole in the switch is going to be for this screw. So just kind of get that in there. It's a nice long screw, and I settle everybody else down where they're supposed to be. So I end up with the switch in place on the pin, and the spacer between the metal plate and the actual switch itself. Hopefully you have not lost your two small screws that hold the metal plate in. Snug everybody down, and you're just about there. Alright, again, being careful with your screws. They are metal into plastic. Just make sure you're in the groove. Go backwards a little bit, and it should slide right in. The exception might be on a new cover. You might actually be making the grooves when you have a new valve cover. Alright, make sure your wires are connected to the circuit board for your motor and your switch, and might be time to plug it in and turn the water on. See what you got. Oh, and one last note. Disassembly is the reverse of the assembly we just showed. So if you need help taking it apart, watch this video backwards.